when that moment would usually hit, it was so disconcerting that I'd run the other way. In the States, we were on a magazine called Time and Newsweek at the same time, and I ended up on the cover of both.
On stage, he looked untouchable, a man who could command 80,000 people with a single chord. But off stage, everything was quietly unraveling. What happens when the voice of working-class devotion can't hold his own marriage together?
It's not quite my thing, right? And he goes, yeah, you gotta do it. And he started singing Red-Headed Woman. You literally got out of bed, picked up the guitar, and while I'm sitting in bed, you wrote Red-Headed Woman at that moment.
How does someone who writes songs about love and loyalty end up breaking the heart of the person who trusted him most? The man fans called the Boss was struggling with something far more ordinary and far more painful. And when the truth finally surfaced, Bruce Springsteen wasn't just facing a broken marriage, he was facing himself. The real question is, when did it actually begin? The rise of the Boss. Bruce Frederick Joseph Springsteen was born on September 23, 1949, in Long Branch, New Jersey. He didn't come from a famous or rich family. There were no blazing lights or red carpets, just a working-class boy with Dutch, Irish, and Italian ancestry. And maybe that mix is why he has such a fiery personality. Bruce's home life in Freehold wasn't idyllic when he was a kid. Douglas, his father, worked long hours as a bus driver and struggled with melancholy, which made the house feel very dark. Bruce and his dad regularly disagreed about rules, dreams, and occasionally just being a teenager. But even with all that stress, Bruce could still breathe when he listened to music. He got his first guitar when he was 13 years old, after seeing Elvis Presley sing on The Ed Sullivan Show. Just picture it, a scrawny kid with a guitar trying to figure out the universe by playing chords that felt like magic. Music became more than a hobby. It became his way to get away, his friend, and finally, his superpower. By the end of the 1960s, Bruce was working hard in the bars of Asbury Park, forming bands like Steel Mill, and building a reputation for long shows that left fans sweating, excited, and wanting more. He gave everything he had to his shows night after night, and slowly, people started to notice. But the more he worked, the more he realized that fame wasn't all cheers and lights. It came with its own stresses that could get to someone without anyone noticing. Then came 1975 and Born to Run. Bruce Springsteen was no longer just a man from New Jersey. He was famous. Everyone knew who he was. People all over the world clapped for him, sung along to every song, and listened to everything he said. But here's the twist. Bruce wasn't happy or safe, even though he was doing well. He was fighting worries he didn't even know he had yet, even though he looked like a rock star in his leather jacket. In his 2016 autobiography, Born to Run, he talks about how his background left him with significant fears, such as a fear of commitment, trust issues, and a tendency to put up walls around his heart, which was a lonely spot where no one could get to him. And these secret fights didn't stay secret. They followed him into his adult life and his relationships. The 1980s just made both aspects of his life worse. At that point, Bruce was a famous person all over the world. It came out in 1984 and sold more than 30 million copies. Dancing in the Dark and other songs made him seem like the perfect everyman, a voice for the working class, and a hero on stage. But things were different behind the scenes. Bruce wanted things to be normal. He wanted quiet dinners, short conversations, and a life without the spotlight of celebrity. He tried dating photographer Lynn Goldsmith, model Karen Darvin, and Inez Connolly, who was his longest relationship before he became famous, but none of these relationships lasted through the stress. Fame had a way of breaking down closeness, and Bruce often felt alone, even when he was with people who loved him. How did those struggles lead him to make choices that would change everything? Bruce meets Julianne. In October 1984, amidst the chaos of the Born in the USA tour, Bruce Springsteen met Julianne Phillips backstage in Los Angeles. She was 25, fresh-faced, and radiating Hollywood glamour, a model and actress with small roles in films like Summer Fantasy. 11 years younger than Bruce, Julianne seemed like a different world, a world of light, energy, and possibilities far removed from the gritty streets of New Jersey where Bruce had grown up. Their agents introduced them, and almost instantly, sparks flew. Bruce later recalled in Born to Run, they laughed together, shared secret moments between concerts, and for the first time, Bruce felt a sense of excitement outside the stage. Julianne represented freedom, escape, a breath of fresh air from the pressures of fame and the shadows of his childhood. Yet, there was more than charm at play. Bruce was searching for something he hadn't found in years, a sense of normalcy, a partner who could keep up with him and maybe even anchor him. Just 7 months later, on May 13th, 1985, they were married in a midnight ceremony at Our Lady of the Lake Catholic Church in Lake Oswego, Oregon, Julianne's hometown. The night was meant to be private, a way to dodge the prying eyes of the media. But even intimacy has its chaos. Bruce's mother, Adele, flew in last minute, adding both warmth and tension. The press quickly caught wind of the story. People magazine called it a fairy tale wedding, painting the couple as star-crossed lovers who had found each other in the glitter of Tehran. For a while, it did feel magical. Bruce and Julianne shared quiet dinners, laughter-filled evenings, and brief escapes from the spotlight. But as the honeymoon glow faded, cracks began to appear. Julianne, used to the Hollywood lifestyle, found it hard to adjust to Bruce's relentless touring schedule. Nights spent on planes, in hotels, or surrounded by the E Street Band's camaraderie left her feeling alone. Bruce, introspective by nature and still battling the unresolved anxieties from his upbringing, struggled to fully center himself in the relationship. Age and lifestyle differences, once exciting, now highlighted how different their worlds really were. Fame only made things harder. Paparazzi hounded every move, turning private moments into headlines. A simple walk in the park could end up splashed across magazines. Bruce's songs, always personal, began to reflect the growing tension in his life. While the audience sang along to stadium anthems, the lyrics in quieter tracks hinted at a heart wrestling with distance, longing, and the pressure to keep appearances. Julianne, by all accounts, loved Bruce deeply. In interviews years later, she rarely spoke about the marriage, respecting both privacy and the painful memories. Bruce, however, admitted in his memoir, Born to Run, "Julianne loved me and didn't have an exploitive bone in her body, but I couldn't center myself." Even the man who could command tens of thousands of fans nightly found it difficult to navigate the demands of love. Their whirlwind romance, so intense and full of hope, now revealed a central truth. Love alone couldn't fix Bruce's inner struggles, his unresolved fears, anxieties, and the emotional walls he had built over decades made it impossible to fully connect. What started as excitement and escape slowly began to feel like a pressure cooker, with the tiny cracks widening into cracks that would become impossible to ignore. And yet, at this point, none of the world outside the tour buses could see the storm brewing. To the fans, it was a fairy tale wedding, a glamorous romance that seemed destined to last. But behind closed doors, the pressures of fame, touring, and Bruce's internal battles were quietly testing the marriage. As the calendar moved toward 1987, these tensions would reach a tipping point. The release of Tunnel of Love would act like a mirror, reflecting the growing unrest in Bruce's heart. Songs that seemed romantic on the surface carried an undercurrent of uncertainty, struggle, and longing. Fans singing along in stadiums had no idea that the man they adored was beginning to confront the cracks in his personal life. When the music reveals the heartbreak. Bruce Springsteen's life was more difficult than ever by 1987. He was the boss, filling stadiums and loved by millions. He sang songs like Born in the USA that made him seem unbeatable. But something quieter and darker was going on under the crowds and dazzling lights. Bruce was dealing with doubt, loneliness, and problems in his marriage to Julianne Phillips. He resorted to his music, which he could always trust, as he often did. He put out Tunnel of Love that year, which was a very different kind of album for him. The loud stadium anthems and wild E Street Band blasts were gone. This record, on the other hand, was confessional, self-reflective, and brutally honest. Bruce recorded most of it by himself, letting the songs speak for him. It was like a diary set to music. Every chord, lyric, and pause appeared to speak to his inner struggle, doubt, temptation, dread, and remorse. Then there's One Step Up. The music is very authentic and raw. You can feel the regret in every line. He sings about a female in a bar sending him signals, about pretending everything is good, and about not keeping his commitments. Fans guessed accurately that these lyrics were more than just fiction. They were like actual temptations, and showed how Bruce was feeling emotionally distant in his marriage. He said in Born to Run that trying to have an adult life with a spouse uncovered things I'd avoided. The album was a confession as much as it was music, in other words. The Tunnel of Love Express Tour in February 1988 brought the songs to life on stage. Patty Scialfa, who had joined the E Street Band in 1984, was now the star of the show. Their duets, laughs, and little touches on stage were electric. Fans could see the chemistry. The music was no longer just notes and lyrics. It was emotion that could be seen. Things were totally different off stage. Julianne came to see Bruce from time to time, but the distance between them was getting more. Their marriage was under a lot of stress because of long tours, new relationships emerging under the surface, and the pressures of celebrity. Bruce talked about it honestly, that he was drifting apart from Julie and seeing something different in Patty. The album, the tour, and the stage all showed how stressed he was in his personal life. Art was copying life in a sad, poetic way. Tunnel of Love is interesting not just because it presents a story about a marriage that is in jeopardy. It portrays Bruce fighting with himself. Every song shows what he's afraid of. Even if they didn't know the whole tale, fans could feel the strain. They sang along, their hearts racing with the music, not knowing that the man behind the microphone was dealing with temptation, remorse, and longing while the crowd shouted. The record also changed the way Bruce showed his weakness. His songs used to be about problems on the outside, like life as a working-class person, battling for a dream, or getting through hard times. Tunnel of Love went inward to look at the personal problems we all go through, but don't talk about too often. It was more than simply an album. It was a warning, a confession, and therapy all in one. Like all of Bruce's best work, it could speak to everyone. Anyone who has ever been in love and felt conflicted, anyone who has a hidden passions, or anyone who has made mistakes might hear themselves in these songs. Patty and the spark that changed everything. Bruce Springsteen had always had fire in his blood. It propelled him to perform on stage, in stadiums, and through decades of music. By the late 1980s, though, that fire was flickering in strange ways, and Patty Scialfa gave it a fresh spark. Patty has been in Bruce's life before. She was born on July 29, 1953, in Deal, New Jersey, and had the same working-class background and Jersey grit that shaped so much of his music. She was a great singer and guitarist, and her raspy voice could be heard above the noise of any audience. Patty tried out for Bruce for the first time in 1971, but she was too young, and the timing didn't work out. In 1984, she joined the E Street Band for the Born in the USA tour. Her red hair and harmonies added a new, electric energy to the stage. People who liked the band sensed it right away, but no one could see the tension building behind the music. People who didn't know them thought Patty and Bruce were ordinary co-workers who shared the stage every night. But anyone who has been on tour knows how quickly ties grow when you spend a lot of time together in close quarters, drive for extended periods of time, rehearse late at night, and share a love of music. It was more than that for Bruce and Patty. They had a subtle, simmering connection because they shared stories about New Jersey, talked about music late at night, and understood each other's problems in life. But there was a wall. Julianne Phillips was Bruce's wife. And even if there were problems in that marriage, he hadn't gone too far yet. But one night in September, possibly in 1987, while Julianne was abroad filming, that wall started to fall apart. By the time the Tunnel of Love Express tour started in 1988, the spark had turned into something that couldn't be ignored. The long hours on stage, the inside jokes, the solos and harmonies they shared, and everything else made them feel close. And then there was the moment that everyone had to pay attention to, June 1988. Paparazzi took pictures of Bruce and Patty on a hotel balcony in their pants, and they were definitely close. The pictures were in a lot of places, like newspapers and magazines. The scandal broke out right away, but Bruce made it clear that he and Julianne had already broken up a month before the pictures were taken. People were very angry. Patty was called a homewrecker by tabloids, and even decades later, people online say things like, "Once a cheater, always a cheater." Fans and viewers were quick to condemn, only thinking about the betrayal and not the deep feelings that were going on below. Behind every headline and picture was a man looking for a connection, dealing with the stress of being famous, and facing sentiments he had been avoiding for a long time. Bruce said it wasn't simply being impetuous or careless, it was two people meeting at the right and wrong periods at the same time. He told The Advocate in 1995 that they encountered each other during a searching time. Yes, it was against the rules, but it was also exciting and real. Their relationship wasn't based on lying or being mean. It was based on understanding, shared history, and music. And yet, even in the middle of the spark, there was suffering. One marriage was falling apart, and there was nothing that could be done about it. Julianne was in pain. Bruce's reputation suffered a knock. As the other woman, Patty got the most criticism. But in the middle of all the sadness, a new link was growing. Even though it started in a tempest of scandal, it would eventually evolve into love and collaboration, heartbreak, and a new beginning. By the end of the summer of 1987, Bruce Springsteen's personal life had become so chaotic that it finally reached a breaking point. Julianne Phillips filed for divorce on August 30, saying that they could not agree on anything. It was both an end and a mirror for Bruce, showing him all the ways he had failed as a husband. He is really honest in his memoir, Born to Run. The divorce wasn't only a legal matter, it was a public event that was made worse by rumors and whispered judgments. The final settlement, which was made public on March 1, 1989, stayed hidden, but rumor guessed that it would be worth $20 million. Bruce wanted everyone to be quiet to protect his privacy, but it only made the talk worse. Fans and the media both argued about his choices, and occasionally they were very nasty. But there was a more personal story behind the headlines, a man attempting to figure out why love had slipped through his fingers despite his best efforts. Julianne's focus after the event was on being strong. She went back to acting and got parts in Sisters and Fletch Lives. Even though it broke her heart, she never married again. She came out of it stronger in many respects, keeping her elegance and dignity while being watched by the public. Her tale shows us that ends, even painful ones, may help us learn more about ourselves and give us power. After the divorce, Bruce's path was different, but just as life-changing. He moved in with Patty Scialfa, the lady whose spark had slowly developed into something undeniable after his marriage fell apart. Once a source of controversy and scandal, their connection became a source of stability and friendship. In July 1990, their son Evan was born. He was a living symbol of hope and rejuvenation. Bruce said that the birth of his son changed the way he thought about family, love, and duty. Bruce said in a Yahoo interview in 2025, looking back decades later, "Those words show how hard relationships can be. Sometimes you have to lose something to grasp what is actually important." Bruce's divorce didn't only end his marriage, it was the event that changed him from an emotional nomad who floated through life and relationships to someone who could commit, connect, and be vulnerable. It wasn't easy or quick to come back to life. Bruce had to deal with the same fears and worries that had bothered him since he was a child: trust, connection, and being emotionally available. But now he found a partner who not only shared his interest, but also understood him. Patty had been with him through years of touring, music, and late-night talks. Their relationship was no longer a secret or forbidden. It was based on shared experiences, honesty, and a desire to be together in the future. Bruce learned things during his divorce that fame and music could never truly teach him. It showed what happens when you avoid your feelings and don't put yourself first in a relationship. It also made him remember that heartbreak isn't the end of a tale. It's a new beginning. After Bruce and Julianne broke up, he was able to find new love and grow as a person by admitting his mistakes and deciding to do better. Bruce found new life in the ashes of a public and private failure. The man who had trouble keeping his marriage together found that he could have a lasting connection. Bruce moved on with Patty, a child, and a new sense of purpose. He no longer ran away from his past, but stepped into a life where love, responsibility, and music could all be present, building a life with Patty. After the storms of his past, Bruce Springsteen finally found a calm he hadn't known in years. On June 8, 1991, he and Patty Scialfa were married in a quiet, intimate garden ceremony at their Beverly Hills estate. No stadiums, no screaming fans, just family, friends, and a sense that this marriage was meant to be different. For Bruce, it was a chance to start over, to build something steady and real. Soon, their family began to grow. Daughter Jessica arrived later that year, followed by son Sam in 1994. The children grounded Bruce and Patty in ways that fame and touring never could. Life shifted from late-night concerts and tabloids to homework, soccer games, and bedtime stories. Patty stepped back from constant touring, though she never gave up her music entirely, releasing solo albums like Rumble Doll that allowed her to keep creating while raising the family. Together, Bruce and Patty discovered a rhythm that blended love, music, and family life. On stage, their partnership became a symbol of their bond. Duets, like Tougher Than the Rest, weren't just performances, they were love letters sung for anyone willing to listen. Fans could feel the connection, the shared glances, the quiet smiles during long solos. It was as if every note carried the story of a couple who had survived scandal, heartbreak, and rumor, and had come out stronger on the other side. But even the strongest relationships aren't immune to whispers. Over the years, rumors cropped up like weeds. In 2009, Arthur Kelly publicly claimed that Bruce had an affair with his wife, Anne, a redhead gym acquaintance. Divorce papers alleged adultery at various times and places. For the public, it was easy to sensationalize. For Bruce and Patty, it was just noise. Bruce has always been clear about their commitment. In interviews, he stated, "Our commitment remains as strong as the day we married." In Born to Run, he dismisses the whispers altogether, choosing to focus on the life they built together rather than the stories meant to shake it. Despite the gossip, Bruce and Patty's partnership has endured. Their bond isn't just about romance, it's about shared experiences, resilience, and a history that spans decades. A 2025 US Weekly piece summed it up. Despite scandals, they've built an intricate history. That history includes long tours, family milestones, and countless small, everyday moments that outsiders rarely see, but that define a life together. What's remarkable about Bruce and Patty is that they managed to navigate fame, rumors, and public scrutiny while keeping their marriage intact. They created a space where love could grow quietly, free from the glare of cameras and tabloids. Family, music, and mutual respect became the pillars of their life, anchoring them even when the world tried to pull them apart. Their story also shows how love evolves. It isn't always a fiery spark or a dramatic headline. Sometimes it's a shared glance during a rehearsal, a comforting word after a long day, or raising children together while remembering the storms they survived. For Bruce and Patty, love became a steady flame, bright enough to endure gossip, temptation, and time itself. As we reflect on their journey, it's clear that Bruce's life with Patty isn't defined by past mistakes or fleeting scandals. It's defined by growth, commitment, and the quiet joy of building a life that can withstand the chaos of fame. From whirlwind romance and public scandal to garden weddings and family milestones, their story proves that love, when nurtured with patience and honesty, can not only survive, but thrive. Love and lessons from the heartbreak. Something unexpected can shake up even the strongest lives. That challenge came for Bruce Springsteen and Patty Scialfa in 2018. Patty was diagnosed with early-stage multiple myeloma, a type of blood cancer that impairs the immune system and affects plasma cells. When Springsteen was on Broadway, this was a fresh test for a couple who had already been through public controversy, heartache, and fame. Music and sold-out stadiums couldn't help them this time. Patty faced it with her usual bravery. In the 2024 documentary Road Diary, she said that it hurts her immune system and that she can only sing a few songs every now and again. The diagnosis came early, so medication may help, but the tiredness and uncertainty were genuine. She cut back on tours and only showed up sometimes, putting her health and family ahead of the spotlight. Bruce thought about what it meant to face death with someone he loved. In a 2024 ABC interview, the man who had earlier had trouble with relationships, temptations, and public attention said that this was a reminder of what really matters: love, being there for each other, and having strength together. This part of their lives shows how problems may change a relationship. The affair, the heartache, and the public scandal had put them to the test in one manner, but Patty's illness had put them to the test in a different way. It needed trust, patience, and complete honesty. It made Bruce remember that being strong isn't just about getting through the craziness of celebrity or traveling the world. It's also about overcoming genuine, everyday problems together. From these trials come the lessons that define Bruce Springsteen's story. Fame, as bright as it shines, can't protect anyone from heartbreak, mistakes, or illness. Love, in its purest form, isn't a flashy headline or a stadium anthem. It's quiet, steady, and sometimes tested by moments that feel unfair. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It's forged in regret, reflection, and commitment. Bruce once admitted in Born to Run how poorly he handled past separation. But these later years show how a man can learn from mistakes and build something lasting. Even the youngest fans can see that life is chaotic, love is hard, and mistakes happen all the time. But being strong and sticking together through scandal, tragedy, and disease makes a bond that can't be broken. Bruce and Patty's story shows that heartbreak doesn't have to be the end. It's a teacher. Every mistake, every rumor, and every private problem set the stage for growth, understanding, and a stronger relationship. Bruce said in a 2024 Fortune Well interview, "We've built a family we love and want to protect." They went through a lot, from whirlwind romances to public scandals, heartbreaks, and illnesses, and they came out with something stronger than fame or money. They established a life based on love, family, music, and honesty that could handle anything. Their story teaches us all that fame and blunders may come and go, but human connection, devotion, and courage in the face of life's obstacles are what really last. Bruce Springsteen's story isn't simply about a music star. It's also about how strong the heart can be. Bruce Springsteen's story proves that heartbreak, mistakes, and true love can coexist and grow stronger over time. If you found this story moving, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more incredible stories like this.